As Trump's strike threats grow louder and jets mass on Iran's borders, is Khamenei quietly rolling out a proxy war gambit that reaches far beyond the Gulf? With Western intel now tracking heightened chatter, are US officials bracing for Iranian-linked terror cells to be activated from Europe to the Gulf if bombing starts? As new reports map out Iran's reach, are the Houthis, Hezbollah, and aligned jihadist networks emerging as Khamenei's true frontline against any American attack? And with US jets loaded in Jordan while Iran's proxies dig in, is this looming showdown turning into a far deadlier contest that no longer stays inside one battlefield? As US-Iran war drums beat louder, a new report lays out Khamenei's likely war strategy: bleed America through proxies while riding out any direct strikes. US and European officials fear that if Trump orders large-scale attacks, Iran may answer with global proxy terror rather than only missiles from its own soil. Western officials told the New York Times they believe Iranian-linked groups could hit US targets worldwide if open war erupts. Intercepted heightened chatter between networks has already suggested some level of attack planning and coordination is underway. Analyst Colin P. Clark warns Tehran can use proxies to raise the human, political, and economic costs of any sustained US military campaign. He cautions that if Khamenei and the IRGC feel truly threatened, they may greenlight terror attacks abroad, including on European soil. Clark said, and I quote, "Iran can work through proxies to conduct terrorist attacks that will raise costs. If Khamenei and the IRGC feel threatened, they may order terror attacks abroad." Unquote. The New York Times notes that Yemen's Houthis could resume or escalate strikes on Western-linked shipping in Red Sea lanes if war breaks out. Hezbollah, al-Qaeda elements, and aligned networks could instead go after US embassies, consulates, or bases in parts of Europe. One Western official warned of hybrid operations, blending cyber attacks, sabotage, and deniable cells on US and EU soil. In response, the Pentagon has rushed extra Patriot batteries and layered missile defenses to shield US forces already stationed across the region. Yet officials admit that soft targets, hotels, transit hubs, and civilian venues, would remain the hardest to defend against proxy terror. These warnings come as new reporting says IRGC officers are taking direct operational control of Hezbollah's war machine in Lebanon. Recently arrived Iranian commanders are reportedly rebuilding Hezbollah rocket units and personally briefing cells across Lebanon. Sources told Al Arabiya that IRGC officers are now scripting detailed missile plans and strategic war scenarios, rather than leaving big decisions to Hezbollah alone. Another assessment says Tehran now assumes US strikes are inevitable and has quietly placed its regular and proxy forces on heightened alert. Analysts argue Iran is hardening the northern front through Hezbollah for US or Israel clash many in the region now see as only a matter of time. While Iran hardens its proxy network for possible war, the US is massing its own forces around Iran's borders and nearby seas. Satellite imagery published by New York Times shows more than 60 US attack jets parked at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. That is roughly 3 times the normal fighter presence there, underlining how sharply the posture has changed. Flight data indicates that at least 68 US cargo planes have landed at the base since February 15th, hauling in men and material. Jordan's hub is just one node in a wider US buildup that now includes 2 carriers, over a dozen warships and hundreds of combat aircraft. Axios-cited figures say more than 150 US cargo flights have recently rushed weapons and ammunition into Gulf bases, filling forward depots. Meanwhile, Iran has been fortifying its own borders, digging in for the possibility that diplomacy collapses into open conflict. Ballistic missile launchers now reportedly line Iran's western border with Iraq, positioned so Israel and regional US sites sit within reach. Another belt of launchers along the Persian Gulf coastline sits within range of major US bases and ports across the Gulf monarchies. On February 17th, Khamenei warned that even the most powerful military could be slapped off its feet, a thinly veiled jab at US forces. With Iran's proxies now openly factored into US threat assessments, the tide of any future conflict has taken a deadlier, more unpredictable turn.